Well, I figured Bungie was probably going to drop something on us today, and lo and behold, boys, we got a Bungie Vidoc in front of us. They showed off a lot of juicy stuff coming up in Shadowkeep, but they also wanted to give a layout of what's to come over the next year. And some of the way in which Bungie began to speak and talk about halfway through the video made me start questioning the possibility of a Destiny 3 ever even coming. As in the lingo and dialogue that Luke Smith and the other developers were using seemed to almost put more emphasis into evolving Destiny 2. As they mentioned, a year from now, everything that is happening starting here in Shadowkeep will all come together. We'll get into that, but first up, guys, let's cover some of the hot topics that were talked about in today's Vidoc. First up, yeah, we've got some returning exotics, Monte Carlo. We've seen it before, but I feel like every time we see Monty, we just gotta point it out. It's beautiful, it's back, it's in Destiny 2, and my god, I cannot wait to use it with Top Tree Sentinel. Okay, that's all. I just wanted to fanboy over Monty for just a second. Moving on, we have a Titan here shooting what appears to be an auto rifle, but it also has like a Nemesis star look to it. It's very slow rate of fire, but also this gameplay could have been slowed down too. I have no idea what this weapon is. It does look very unique though. Could be an exotic. Somebody in the comments let me know. Now our next screenshot here might not look that special, but I just want to point out Harpy Ghost. Look at that. It's about damn time, right? Now the next screenshot here is one of the mods found on a Warlock bond. It states that finishers heal you. It will require 1/10 of your super energy. Now periodically we've been seeing these mods, right? We've seen one that gives heavy ammo when doing a finisher move on an enemy. This one's a good risk reward option, as going in there up close to an enemy is kind of risky, especially with some enemies that have stop mechanics, but this will allow you to get a heal off. Now the next screenshot here, this is a Vanguard auto rifle. Now, a lot of people are saying this could potentially be the Vanguard Pinnacle weapon. I have no way of confirming that. What I do know is that the model of this weapon is a Suros model, similar to something like Galarid? I don't know, man. I can never say the name of that auto rifle, but it's essentially identical to Destiny 1's gun model Genesis Chain, which was the Wrath of the Machine auto rifle. Could this be the Pinnacle weapon for the Vanguard next season? It's possible, but it can definitely just be a vendor weapon. Moving on, we got a screenshot here showcasing some of these Guardians. Looks like one of the raid areas. Our hunter there is holding that sniper hand cannon, but notice that the weapons on his back, as well as the weapons that the Warlock and Titan are holding, are thematically the same. The next screenshot we have, of course, the same gun model for something like No Time to Explain. I don't believe this is the exotic though. Something tells me this is just the same gun model from Curse of Osiris for that previous pulse rifle, brought back this season as just a legendary. I could be wrong though. Next screenshot here, we get a good look here at the LMG, the exotic one that we've seen multiple times. It's the one that comes with the pyrotoxin rounds. It's essentially a sniper, guys, but as an LMG. It's gonna make Gambit a fun time. But to the left is the bow. Now the heavy bow, we haven't really seen it in action, but that's right, guys. It is a bow present in the heavy slot. Here in this little clip, we actually see it doing damage, and that's a pretty whopping amount right there. Now moving into the weapons themselves, the themed weapons around Eris and these different nightmares. This was really interesting to me. So you notice that these weapons have all these symbols on them. You've seen them on the hand cannon. We see it here on this weapon, but notice that it's glowing red. One of the devs actually stated that when you come into contact or in close proximity of nightmares, the symbols on your weapons will start to glow red like this. Little details like that, guys. I think that's really cool. And by the way, the nightmares are extra spooky. Some are actually old Guardians that have been killed. I think specifically Eris's old fire team, but it seems like the higher tier nightmares are actually old opponents and bosses that we have faced. Gaul, Crota, Greg 2.0, and from what we saw in the Vidoc, they look to be pretty challenging. Now we also see a screenshot here of the rocket launcher. People are saying it's the Void Gallahorn 2.0. It's actually called Deathbringer, which is quite a name. Now the next set of screenshots was very interesting. Luke referred to certain activities that if you were not getting the specific roles that you were looking for, you would go back to the rune table to keep trying to get that specific role. Now this is the rune table, and of course these are the daily bounties associated with it. Now I can't really tell what's behind it. I do see that the Phantasmal Fragment, which is a reward for the daily bounty, also is there present as a material exchange. Now as far as the other items, I mean, one looks kind of like a pumpkin, just a ball of orange, not sure what that is. But either way it goes, obviously there's some sort of rotation here in materials that is used when crafting new Shadowkeep weapons and armor. Maybe even something similar to Menagerie, but with a different activity here. Now moving on to what we previously brought up at the beginning of this video about about the seasons and the path going forward for Destiny 2. First up, we have 8, 9, 10, and 11. The top of this board here, this was essentially Luke Smith writing down the player fantasy in correlation with the season. So for Season of Undying, you have Damn the Flood. And in this next screenshot here, for Season of the Dawn, you have Fix the Timeline. Now, some people are speculating on Reddit that fixing the timeline could be us returning to the Dreaming City in some way. I have no idea. I think the main thing I'm taking away from this is when I look at this board all the way across, I see Bungie looking months and months into the future, which kind of tells me, especially with the dialogue that Luke Smith was using, that D3, which was something that Activision was wanting Bungie to jump on pretty much immediately after launching Destiny 2, is not something Bungie is considering right now. I personally think that whatever model they're trying to include this season, with the season pass, new light, and how they're going to be formatting their expansions over the next year, is actually Bungie's way of testing out this new layout and this new model. And if it's successful, we could possibly see Bungie never making a D3, but instead expanding on D2. Again, Luke Smith keeps referring to this live game, this world that's constantly evolving. Constantly evolving does not mean scrapping it and moving on to a new world. No, he very much means keeping the single one world that we have currently and expanding on it, which I'm gonna be honest with you, after regrinding everything from Destiny 1 to Destiny 2, I don't know how inclined I am to jump to Destiny 3 and regrind again. Now, some other screenshots, we have what appears to be a Dust Rock Blues, similar gun model that is, but with a different twist to it, almost like a Fallen theme and look to it. I think it looks pretty dope. We also have a screenshot here of what appears to be an auto rifle, which I know auto rifles are not meta, but by God, does that not look sexy. Now, moving on to artifacts as well as the upcoming challenges going forward. As you know, guys, we're gonna have our basic power level, which will cap out, I believe, at 950. But with artifacts, you will go beyond that, and there will be no cap on it. Now, I'm not sure at what point does it become like diminishing returns. What I do know, seeing the screenshot here of these upcoming Nightfall challenges, things are about to get crazy. So first up, this Nightfall here, which is the Legend Challenge, which requires a recommended power of 950, has all of these modifiers here, which all looks to be quite dangerous, but it rewards you exotic gear as common and enhancement prisms. Now again, enhancement prisms is what's going to be required of us when upgrading our armor at those higher levels. Now, I don't know how rare they're going to be to get, but they will be a necessity if you're trying to level up your armor all the way to, of course, apply more mods to those armor pieces. Now, the next modifier for this Nightfall gets even scarier, which is the Master Mode. This requires a recommended power of 980, and it throws on even more modifiers. Now, the upside of doing this one over Legend is the chance to receive the reward Ascended Shards, which again, similar to something like Prisms, these are to get the final upgrades in your armor pieces. So yeah, it looks like Nightfalls are gonna get a resurgence there of activity. Now, some last things to include, for those that don't know, yes, the maps Twilight Gap, Widow's Court, and a new map called Fragment are going to be present next season. I think Twilight Gap and Widow's Court is what everybody in Crucible is super hyped about. I love those maps. Pretty sure they're going to be present in the elimination playlist, which is also what Bungie talked about in today's Vidoc. Again, there will be 4 variants of elimination. They'll be located in the Crucible Labs playlist, and they will cycle out every week. And I guess depending on which one resonates the most with the community is what Bungie will eventually make like the main playlist for elimination. This will be a 3v3 mode, and I'm sure it's gonna have some OBG play in it, with probably like a classic trial setting in one of those playlists. Now, moving on. This one caught my eye. It's a Warlock. He's jumping or floofing, but then he suddenly slams into the ground and kills everything. Now, I'm pretty sure this is not a finisher move, as a finisher move only activates when an enemy is almost dead, and of course you see the icons and all that other stuff. This looks to be either A new exotic, or B, Vesper of Radius is finally getting a buff. No, that exotic is so forgotten about. Maybe so. This could possibly be that Warlock exotic chest piece, and this could possibly be a buff for it. So for my Warlock mains, whatever the case, whether it's a new exotic or a rework to an old exotic, you've got a new Superman landing coming. Now, the last screenshot here is our artifact. I always like to just screenshot artifacts because I want to see what each one of these mods do. This one says Ballistic Combo. Now, my eyes cannot decipher what the hell it is, but it's something. You know, like the movies where they like like take a screenshot and then they do some sort of like layered bullshit where it suddenly becomes readable even to the blind, yeah, that's a lie, because there is nothing I can do to make this readable. Regardless though, I like to screenshot these artifacts every chance we can get. Well guys, that is pretty much today's Vidoc. There's a bunch of other things in here, and I highly suggest if you haven't watched the thing from start to finish and you want to get an idea of what the hell Bungie has been up to, go check it out. I know some of you are still on the edge about buying Shadowkeep or getting involved with Destiny 2. I'll tell you this, these changes right here, from what I've seen, as well as New Light going live and Destiny 2 moving to Steam, this game, it's gonna blow up, man, like on astronomical levels. We'll have this conversation again here in 6 months, and really it all boils down to how well Shadowkeep ships. But from what we've seen in the Vidocs, from what players have talked about at PAX, it's looking good, guys. It's looking real good. Fellas, if we missed anything, and I'm sure we did, leave a comment below, let us know. In terms of exotics, today's video is not us going over Shadowkeep exotics. If you want to check that one out, down below in the description is a link to that video. I know somebody's gonna be like, yo man, why didn't you talk about the LMG more or something? We've covered it all. Today I primarily wanted to just focus on the Vidoc itself, as well as the narrative between Bungie developers. Well, fellas and ladies, thank you all for coming and watching, and as always,
slap that like button like your mama told you right.